Hi, I'm Jean. For 9 years, I treated his parents like my own. I celebrated their birthdays, cooked at their table, held their secrets. Then one day, they handed me a bill for their mansion. Pay this or the wedding's off. And before I could even speak, they threw me out. But the betrayal didn't start there. 9 years. That's how long I waited for a seat at their table. Not just the literal seat at the long oak dining table in that Connecticut mansion, but a place in their family, a sign that I was finally welcome, finally seen. When the invitation came, it felt like a quiet victory. Silas's mother, Celia, had never invited me before. This dinner meant something. It had to. I spent the entire day preparing. I chose a navy blue dress with long sleeves and a high neckline, elegant but modest. My mother always said the trick to being memorable was in subtlety. God, I could almost hear her voice while I pressed the collar, reminding me to sit straight, smile often, and never reach across the table. As I folded my linen napkin into a maple leaf, the way she used to, I let myself believe I was stepping into a celebration. I didn't know then I was walking into an ambush dressed like it was a gala. The mansion loomed under a slate-gray sky. Inside, the chandelier above the table flickered gently, casting warm, deceptive light. Silas sat beside me, his leg bouncing under the table. Across from us were Celia and Walter, his parents, and Alma, the older sister who always looked at me like I was some misplaced ingredient in her gourmet soup. Celia greeted me with a tight smile and complimented my dress before adding, "I'm glad you chose something understated. We like subtlety." A jab hidden in silk. I brushed it off. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe. Dinner began. Roasted duck, wine older than my career, sides that looked like they were plated with tweezers. "So, Jean," Celia began, slicing into her duck like it offended her, "where did you say your parents were from again?" I answered calmly, "Vermont." "Right," she nodded. "That explains your rustic charm." Walter snorted into his glass. Alma smirked, eyes never leaving her phone. I tried to steer the conversation towards something neutral. I mentioned a project at work I was proud of. Before I could finish, Alma cut in, "Oh, that's cute, like entry-level branding, right?" I blinked. She added, "Sorry, I meant that in a good way. You're doing great for you." Silas cleared his throat but didn't say a word. I looked at him. Nothing. Just the slow swirl of wine in his glass. I smiled and chewed on the inside of my cheek. "Be gracious, Jean. Breathe." Dessert came. A lemon tart, sour enough to match the tension. And then, like a casual toss of napkins, Celia said, "Have you given any thought to contributing to the estate?" I thought I misheard. I looked at her, fork suspended. She continued, "The renovations. It's a family project. Everyone contributes." Walter chimed in, not looking at me. "We just assumed you'd want to help, considering your upcoming position in the family." Alma added, "I mean, if your little job can support that kind of thing." My mouth was dry. I asked, "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Celia smiled, as if this was all terribly reasonable. 250,000 toward the East Wing. It's simple. You want to be part of this family, you match our standards. I turned to Silas. He didn't meet my eyes. "We all talked about this. It's fair." Fair? I sat there, heart thudding, trying to process if this was a joke, a test, or something worse. My thoughts scattered. Memories of late nights editing his thesis. The months I covered his rent while he started his business. The holidays I spent alone so he could be with them. Was I an investment? My hands started to tremble. I couldn't hear clearly, just muffled sounds, like I was underwater. The napkin in my lap had slipped, the maple leaf I'd folded now limp in my hand. I stood up, quietly. No dramatic exit. I placed the napkin on the table, smoothed it out. No one said. The hum of the engine was the only thing keeping me tethered to the moment. Highway lights blurred past my windshield like slow-falling meteors, casting dull shadows inside the car. The silence. It wasn't peaceful. It pressed in on me, louder than anything anyone had said at that table. I didn't turn on music, didn't call anyone. Even the GPS felt too invasive, so I muted it and drove the old familiar route from Connecticut back to Queens in total stillness. Somewhere outside New Haven, I pulled over, just for a minute, just to sit. I didn't cry. I stared out the windshield, hands gripping the wheel like it could hold me together. My mom's voice, soft and matter-of-fact, rose up from memory. Silence isn't peace, Jane. Sometimes it's punishment. She used to say that when my dad would give her the silent treatment after arguments. I realized then, it wasn't just the words tonight that had cut me. It was the lack of them. Silas never defended me. Not once. "It's fair," he said. That word, fair, kept looping in my head, twisting itself until it sounded like a slur. When I got home, the difference hit like a slap. My apartment, small, lived in, imperfect, wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. It held warmth the mansion never could. The kitchen still smelled faintly of garlic and basil from the pasta I'd cooked 2 nights ago. I didn't bother reheating it. I ate it cold from the Tupperware, standing barefoot in my kitchen, washing it down with the last of a cheap red wine. My reflection in the microwave door looked tired, like a version of me I didn't remember becoming. The bookshelf near the hallway caught my eye, lined with framed photos of Silas and me. Us at the Grand Canyon. Us on New Year's Eve. Us pretending to be a team. I picked one up, stared at it too long, then placed it face down. Then another, and another, until the shelf looked half empty and half liberated. On the coffee table, a folded napkin peeked out from a holiday tin. I pulled it out, a leftover from Thanksgiving. I had folded it into a maple leaf back then, trying to impress Celia with the same little trick I did tonight. I remember how she glanced at it, said nothing, and moved on to critique the wine pairing. I stared at the napkin. It felt ridiculous now, like a child's magic trick performed for a crowd that had already decided to leave. 9 years. I gave 9 years to people who never saw me. I picked up my phone. Miranda. She was probably on shift at the hospital. I didn't expect her to answer, but I needed to say something, anything. The voicemail beeped. "Hey, it's me." I paused. I don't even know where to start. I guess I went to dinner with Silas's family. Thought it was a good thing. Thought it meant something. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Turns out it was just a transaction, a business proposal disguised as a meal. Celia asked if I'd be contributing to their estate, like I was some investor. Walter backed her up, and Alma, she laughed, said my job was cute. Another pause. Then came the real ask, 250 grand, pay up or get out. And Silas, he just sat there, said it was fair, like this was normal, like I should have expected it. My throat felt tight, but my voice didn't break. Miranda, am I crazy? Or have I been asleep for 9 years? I rubbed my forehead, closed my eyes. I didn't say anything. I just sat there. I was afraid of losing my place. But now I realize it wasn't a place. It was a contract. And love doesn't need rent. A pause. I should have asked for a receipt. I ended the call and dropped the phone onto the couch. The apartment was quiet again. Lying in bed hours later, sleep didn't come. The ceiling fans spun in slow, lazy circles. My mind wasn't spinning. It was calculating, replaying, rewriting. The time Celia called me tenacious with that fake smile, I thought it was a compliment. Now I saw the subtext, clingy, persistent, uninvited. Walter once said I was good for grounding Silas. I took it as praise. He meant I kept Silas tied to mediocrity. And the birthday dinner, when I paid for everyone, 5 people, fancy restaurant. Not one thank you. They never wanted a daughter-in-law. That text message felt like a trap dressed in civility. Dinner at my parents' tomorrow. Just come. No drama. I stared at it for minutes, running through possibilities. Are they mocking me, testing me, or trying to pretend nothing ever happened? My gut had learned to feel danger in soft words. I told myself I wouldn't be silent this time. I picked a simple charcoal blouse and black trousers. Nothing flashy, nothing to distract. If I'm ignored again, at least my voice won't be hidden behind a dress. I left early, arriving just before sunset, parking on a quiet side lane so eyes wouldn't follow me in. The mansion was calm. The same stone facade, the same ivy crawling over the columns, the same front steps I'd climbed countless times. But now something in the windows looked colder, more deliberate. Through the door, I glimpsed the family portraits, great-grandfathers, daughters long gone, no space for new faces. Alma greeted me at the foyer, her lips curved with a practiced warmth. Walter's eyes slid over me, evaluated, turned away. Silas stood tall, too polite, too expectant. The air tasted carefully neutral, like they'd scrubbed memories. The dining hall lit softly, candles flickering. They seated me at the far end. The table had the same roast beef I once joked gave me heartburn. I swallowed the thought and kept steely calm. A server brought the first course, then the second. I picked at my plate, letting hunger recede. I'd learned early. Refusing food can be power. Then the door opened. Nora stepped in. The room's temperature dropped. They introduced her like she were a dignitary. "Jen, meet Nora. She's in town for business," they said. Their tone reeked of a statement. Jean meets Nora. Jean watches Nora. Jean is judged beside Nora. I forced a smile. Nora nodded warmly, eyes widening as she looked around the room. Silas cleared his throat, eyes darting. Alma seized every chance to compare. Her degree, her travel, her upbringing. My mind clenched. I lifted my wine glass when Walter stood. "To family that endures, and those who preserve legacy," he said. Legacy. A word meant to exclude me. My throat tightened. I raised my glass anyway, clear voice. "Some legacies are prisons with chandeliers." Silence cracked the room. Nora excused herself. Alma's lips tightened. Beautiful mask. Silas's hand twitched. In the hallway, I cornered Silas. "Was I invited to be quiet or to play along?" I asked. He paused. "I thought we could move forward." "Move backward," I said. "You sat by and let them test me like I'm a rental property." He winced. At my apartment, the voicemail waited. Nora's voice. "I didn't know they'd do that. Call me." Call me. A crack. A possibility. If they trained me to stay silent, maybe Nora was trained to speak, and now regrets it. The morning light barely crept in through the blinds, but I was already sitting on the edge of my bed, fingers clenched around the folded napkin I had tucked into my purse the night before. My throat felt like sandpaper. I hadn't slept, just stared at the ceiling, replaying every second of that dinner. Nora. Walter's toast. Silas. Silent again. The echo of my own words ringing back like a dare I hadn't meant to make, but didn't regret. I stood and opened the drawer where I had kept every scrap Ruth had given me. Notes, texts, bank screenshots, the digital breadcrumbs she warned me to collect. I scanned them slowly, methodically, not as a victim, but as someone preparing for cross-examination. My mother's voice drifted in, clear and stern. "You deserve better than to beg, Jean." She used to say it when I stayed too long in friendships that hurt. I left a voice message for Miranda. "I'm walking into the fire tonight. Keep your phone on." The fire came faster than expected. Around noon, Silas called. His voice carried that tone, diplomatic, rehearsed. "They want a meeting tonight," he said. "We need to clear the air." I asked, "A meeting or a tribunal?" There was a pause. "They just want closure." The Radcliffe Library was the kind of room built to impress and intimidate. The ceilings arched like cathedrals. Oil portraits of long-dead Radcliffes stared down from gilded frames. Men only, of course. I arrived early. No small talk, no small smiles, just nods. Celia greeted me first. Cool, but polite. Walter nodded once. Alma hovered with that ghost of a grin she wore like armor. I was directed to the far end of the long mahogany table. Every inch of distance intentional. They didn't waste time. Walter cleared his throat. Jean, thank you for being here. Celia adjusted her blouse. We felt it was necessary to align expectations. Alma jumped in with the charm. Just a transparent discussion, nothing more. And then it began. Where did I grow up? What were my parents' professions? Did I carry any outstanding debts? Had I ever defaulted on a lease? What was my current income? How stable was my career? Did I intend to remain childless, or was that still undecided? Each question hit like a soft slap, polished, phrased as concern, dressed in smiles. But I saw the blade. Alma leaned in. We heard from someone, can't say who, that you had some financial issues a few years back? Walter folded his hands. It's just important we know who's part of this family. My blood boiled quiet. Part of this family, I repeated in my head. Not their daughter, not their kin, just an applicant under review. I sat straighter, met each question with short, calm answers. My chest tight, but my hands still. Then it hit, like breath from another time, a flashback. My mother in our kitchen, folding a napkin into a leaf. You fold it because it's different, she said. Stand out and be known, even when they ignore you. Her voice became mine. I cut off Alma's next question. Enough. Silence. Only the tick of the mantel clock. I understand now. This isn't a conversation. This is vetting. You've decided I'm a liability, and now you're looking for ways to disqualify me without saying so. Celia's expression turned sour. Walter raised a brow. I stood. You want a balance sheet of my value? I gave you loyalty, time, care. Your son's best years came with my effort. I was there when he was lost, when he lost jobs, when he almost relapsed. I kept quiet when you undermined me because I thought families healed in time. I see now, this isn't family. This is a boardroom. I looked at Walter. If my worth is conditional on approval, then I reject your approval. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Unless you've got a legal document saying I owe you proof of my worth, I'm done justifying my presence. Alma opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Celia gripped the arms of her chair. Silas blinked rapidly. Still, I woke to the cold bite of morning light through sheer curtains. My phone buzzed beside me, an email alert from the Radcliffe estate office. Title transfer confirmation. My chest froze. I opened it. The deed to the mansion. My name had vanished, gone. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling. I stared at the blank space where Jean Hollis should have been. Heart pounding, I remembered the day I signed papers with Silas, believing in trust. Could they erase me from paper and still expect me to exist in memory? Flashbacks blurred, his pen grazing my name, me smiling, believing. Now, confusion gnawed. If they delete me in ink, can they delete me from all their stories? From Silas's stories? I forced myself to move. Walked into my small living room, phone still in hand, and stared at the envelope again until my reflection felt like a stranger. I dressed, grabbed my coat, and left quietly. The street felt hollow. I headed to the estate attorney's office, keeping time between stoplights and shaky breaths. Inside the law firm lobby, I asked politely for Solomon Faulkner. When I was shown in, Celia's assistant sat behind a mahogany desk, expression unreadable. Solomon entered, wearing that calm mask of legal certainty. I said, "My name is gone from the deed." He acted surprised. "Oh, I hadn't seen that." He leaned back. "You never followed up. The paperwork was never finalized." His tone was bland, as though discussing a shipment, not a person's identity. I pushed a printout of the confirmation email across the desk. "You acted like it was formality. You never disclosed a clause that let you strip me later." He offered a small, patronizing smile. Then he slid a blank document toward me. "Sign here to restore status." His voice was soft, almost coaxing, as if offering mercy. My jaw tightened. I refused. "I won't sign away what I never should have lost." The assistant flinched. The air tensed. That evening, the rumor mill spun. Anonymous messages flooded social media. My former neighbors got texts. Jean defaulted on her mortgage, abandoned apartment. In group chats, a friend asked, "Is she okay?" Others whispered. They turned my erasure into gossip. I called Miranda, breathless. "They're saying I left town to dodge debt." My voice cracked for a moment. I realized they weaponized shame to push me out socially. Should I answer publicly? No. I wrote a brief note to a few trusted people. Facts only. Ask if you want clarity. And held my silence elsewhere. Late into the night, I sat at my kitchen table with law books and public records in front of me. I traced back ownership filings. I found it. A backdated deed amendment, signed months before the dinner, listing a bogus alias. My name had been buried intentionally. I called Jasper, voice low but urgent. He confirmed mismatched timestamps, notarization logs off by hours. We plotted subpoenas, compared notary rolls, traced signatures. I typed a note to myself. They stripped me of my name. I will reclaim it piece by piece. By noon the next day, I composed the ultimatum letter in crisp, controlled sentences. Restore my name, issue a written apology, publicly acknowledge my rightful status. I sent it via certified mail and threw an assistant to Celia's hands, my voice as cool as winter air. I left before any reaction. Dawn broke. I found a gilded envelope on my step. Inside, a black tie gala invitation, celebration of legacy. Beneath it, a post-it scrawled in bold, "Your name is welcome if your presence is paid for." My hand trembled. I held it before the mirror and saw someone steady, shaking, but steady. I whispered to my reflection, "Yes, I know the cost now." I woke before the sun had stretched over the skyline. The room was quiet, but my thoughts weren't. I sat up, bare feet on cold floorboards, and stared at the folder on my nightstand. My rights in red ink. I'd labeled it during a moment of anger, but now it felt like armor. The letter I'd sent to Celia was still fresh in my memory. So were the forged amendments, the erasure of my name, the thinly veiled threats disguised as invitations. I stood in front of the mirror, my hair a mess, my face pale. But my eyes, they didn't blink. "They asked me to earn my place," I whispered. "I'll take it back by law." By 7, I had a briefcase packed. Laptop, original contracts, notarized copies, screenshots, title transfers, all of it. I reached for the leaf napkin I'd kept from my mother's drawer, folded it carefully, and slid it inside the inner pocket. I wasn't walking into battle alone. Jasper's place was quiet, like always. His home office smelled like coffee and warm paper. He raised an eyebrow as I unloaded my evidence. We'd worked together once, in our 20s, building tech data pipelines. Now he built cases, the kind that exposed manipulation under bureaucratic fog. I showed him the notary inconsistencies and title amendments. He cross-referenced state databases, pausing only to mutter, "This one's fake. That signature's a copy-paste." He leaned back. "You know what happens next, right? They'll try to cast you as unstable, reckless. They'll flip the script before you get a word in." I smiled without warmth. "Let them. I've been silent long enough." By noon, Jasper helped me finalize the subpoenas. We filed for the original deed documents, full notary logs, and witness statements. My legal team was small but sharp. By 4 p.m., Celia's lawyer sent their response, a cease and desist, accusing me of defamation. I stood in my apartment, the letter crumpled slightly in my hand, and read it aloud. "If speaking the truth is defamatory, then silence must be their sanctuary." Later that evening, I posted a brief message to my network. No hashtags, no drama. Just the words, "I intend to reclaim what was never mine to lose." I didn't expect the next blow so quickly. That night, Radcliffe Mansion went dark. Literally. Power cut, lights out, security cameras down. I heard about it from a neighbor who worked for the estate's cleaning service. At the same time, a text reached my phone, no sender ID. Just one line. "Be careful what you legalize. Some houses don't like loud voices. An hour later, a friend messaged me a screenshot, a photo of me outside an apartment building, doctored with a fake foreclosure sign. The caption? From mansion dreams to eviction reality. The message was clear: back down or we escalate. But something in me burned hotter. They weren't just erasing me, they were daring me to vanish. So I did the opposite. The following afternoon, I stood on a small platform outside a local civic center. A few reporters, some neighbors, a microphone. I didn't shake. I believed in love, not leases, I began. They said it was about family. Turns out it was about ownership, of name, of space, of voice. Some nodded. Some looked away. By sunset, a regional media site picked up the story. The headline was trash. Scandal survivor turns legal crusader, Jasper called. They're painting you as the villain before the trial even starts. I didn't flinch. I went home, recorded a video message. No makeup, just truth. I woke before dawn. The room was dim, but my mind crackled with clarity. I retrieved the sealed response from Radcliffe's attorney and the counterdemands they had filed. I saw in their words the walls closing in, structured like a fortress built to contain me. The silence from the family meeting, their veiled hostility, it all sharpened. I swallowed hard, pressed my hand to my chest. I would not shrink again. Tonight, silence would not be my cage. I would wield it as weapon. I met Jasper mid-morning in his modest apartment. The glare of his computer screens framed his face. We sat side by side, rifles in a war of data. He displayed his findings: forged notary signatures, timestamp mismatches, deed versions lost or overwritten. He cautioned me, if you move, they'll try to paint you as unhinged, smear your past, twist your motives. I nodded, clenched my jaw. Let them try, I said. But I won't be the whisper in their narrative. Later that afternoon, my legal counsel delivered subpoenas, original deeds, notary logs, witness affidavits. Within hours, Celia's lawyer responded with threats, defamation claims, warnings of legal backlash. I sat in my apartment, letter trembling in hand, and read it out loud. Show your hands or stop hiding behind silence. The tone was condescending. Then I posted a quiet note to trusted friends. I intend to reclaim what was never mine to lose. Night fell. At Radcliffe, the lights flickered off. Security systems went dark. Phones cut. A message pinged my phone. Be careful what you legalize. Some houses don't like loud voices. Then social media surfaced a doctored photo. Me outside a foreclosure notice. My reputation used as lever. They whispered, "You asked for it." But I held firm. I refused to flinch. The next afternoon, I stood at a podium before neighbors, journalists, attendees. I spoke with measured calm. I believed in love, not leases. They said it was family. It was ownership. Some nodded, others stared. That night, a regional outlet splashed a headline. Scandal or reclamation, Jasper called. They're flipping you into villain territory already. I recorded a short video. They rewrote my name on paper. I'll rewrite my story in truth. Then, the summons arrived, court in 2 weeks. The judge, former consultant for Radcliffe. Of course, conflict of interest baked into the system. My pulse thundered. I stared at the summons, cold clarity replacing fear. My mother's whisper echoed, "Your dignity is your sword." I touched the napkin in my pocket. I exhaled and said aloud, "Tomorrow, I don't step into a courtroom. I step into their history." I woke to a notification blinking harshly on my phone. The subject line read, "Court of Records, Public Notice." My heart lurched. I opened the document. Evelyn had filed a motion to dismiss my lawsuit, labeling it frivolous. My fingers felt cold. I rifled through my legal folder and found a motion with a partial signature, one I never signed. Their claim was blatant. It was all or nothing. This was the fight, or the end. I closed my eyes for a moment, then reopened them. I folded the maple leaf napkin I always carried, pressed it tight against my palm. I whispered to the reflection in my mirror, "Your name is your armor." At my lawyer's office, they explained the petition. Evelyn's team was calling me a fraudulent claimant with invalid documents. The motion would be public. Media access guaranteed. Celia's lawyer claimed she never had legal standing. It was all a courtesy. I listened, controlled, then countered. I demanded original signed deeds, procurement records, notary logs, and I published Evelyn's motion online before they could suppress it. I recorded a short video, voice calm but fierce. "If you erase me from paper, the world will see what you tried to hide." That evening, Jasper and I delivered the deed files to local news outlets and legal blogs. We included timestamps, notary logs, signatures of Evelyn's prior removals. Overnight, headlines emerged. Heir ousted by powerful family. Woman battles to reclaim her name. Evelyn's camp scrambled. On TV, Silas faltered mid-sentence when called. I watched the coverage on my phone. Each headline felt like validation. The tide was turning. The Radcliffe family rushed to respond. Press releases, denials, attempts at reconciliation, but undercut by desperation. At the gala, whispers began. Society pages questioned bloodlines, genealogy, authenticity. Celia sent out a surprise reconciliation gesture newsletter, but the tone rang hollow. A former socialite supporter called me. "You've awakened people who looked but stayed silent." I realized I didn't need to negotiate. I would reclaim on my own terms. When invited to a televised local forum on property rights and family legacy, I accepted. I spoke candidly. I was not a charity project. I was promised equality. I quoted law, records, my own lived truth. I asked straight, "When do we stop tolerating silence as consent?" The audience responded in applause. The camera lingered on my face, steady, resolute. Late that night, an email came from Celia. "We should talk, before this goes too far." Attached was a scan of the original signed deed from years ago, one of the first versions of the mansion documents, back when Silas and I first toured the property together. I stared at my name in elegant ink. Evidence at last. My breath caught. They handed me my name back, but the question now, who will dare take it again? The cafe was quiet. The steam from my coffee curled upward, soft and slow. I sat across from Celia, waiting for her to speak. No lawyers, no walls, just two women in daylight. She cleared her throat. "I wanted honesty," she began, voice steady at first, her posture stiff, her fingers clasped. She said she arranged this meeting to explain things, although I already knew what they wouldn't tell me. I didn't smile. I leaned forward. "Say what you came to say, Celia. I didn't bring my time for sale." Her eyes flickered, something I hadn't seen before, hesitation. She said the tampering of my deed was done by Walter and Silas. She claimed she knew only afterward. She slid a USB drive across the table. "These are internal emails, drafts, signed scans, everything confirming your stake," she said, voice low. I took the drive, held it, felt cold metal in my hand. She exhaled. Her mask cracked. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Later that day, I issued a public statement, no threats, no demands. I made it clear I would not sue for damages, but I insisted on a public apology from the Radcliffe family. I demanded acknowledgement in writing, owned by their name, not mine. Hours later, their response flickered across screens. They admitted wrongdoing. Silas resigned from his charitable boards. Evelyn stepped back from her trust. My statement included one line I chose carefully. "The truth is not revenge, it's a reset." Social media feeds lit up with Hygiene's justice. Silence became not weakness, but choice. Days turned into offers. Journalists, producers, publishers. Jasper joked, "They want stories, not justice." But I shook my head. Ownership was mine. But I declined the mansion. I accepted 33% rights legally, yes, but I turned that into something bigger, a scholarship fund for women in foster care, using the payout. The mansion would be auctioned publicly, proceeds divided fairly. I would not be boxed in by marble and keys. A few weeks later, I returned to my childhood town. At a small memorial for my birth mother, they unveiled a plaque. I stood before it with old classmates. I walked through the halls of my old high school and gave a small talk on identity, survival, meaning. I said, "Some inherit legacies, others carve their own from every stone thrown at them." Back in my new apartment, I framed the maple leaf napkin on the wall above my desk. It no longer felt like a keepsake, it was a relic of survival. Jasper was moving to Oregon. He said it was time. We hugged. We promised to write. He stayed a friend, not a rescuer. One afternoon, I got a letter from Alma. "I watched your interview. You are everything they feared you'd be." I didn't respond. I kept it in a drawer. Months later, I walked past the Radcliffe mansion. A for auction sign stood in front. I paused, stood a moment. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. They thought the house was the prize, but I was the legacy.